Agents are converging on your route.
Got it, operator.
They know Noah's about to learn how secure AI can transform his business. They want him blind.
Come on, Noah. We have to reach Marthius before it's too late.
Why are they trying so hard to stop me?
We have to move.
Agents are behind you. They don't want Noah to understand secure AI, governance, or automation.
Hold on, Noah. We're not letting them keep your business in the dark ages. They fear you choosing clarity.
Why are they chasing me? Because secure AI means automation, protection, and productivity, and they lose control if you upgrade.
If Noah learns secure AI strategy, his competition doesn't stand a chance. Take him to Marthius.
Hold on, Noah. We're almost there. Marthius is waiting for you, and everything will soon be clear.
Noah, you felt it. That pull toward a more secure, efficient, intelligent business, that feeling is real.
And you were right to follow it. Every leader reaches a moment where staying the same becomes riskier than evolving.
I just want to make the right move.
Then choose. Take the blue pill, and nothing changes.
Manual processes, security gaps, missed revenue, while others move ahead with secure AI.
Take the red pill, and you embrace a secure AI strategy, governed, protected, and designed to grow your business.
I'm ready. I'm taking the red pill.
Then let's transform your business securely.
If you're ready to move past the blue pill, IT Pros Management Group can be your red pill.
Security-first AI, real productivity gains, a roadmap built for your business, not the hype.
Every advantage you gain is one less your competitors control.
Connect with IT Pros Management Group today and start building your secure AI strategy before your competitors do.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed that little video we put together. Let's decide today whether you're going to take the blue pill or if you're going to take the red pill. It's a choice you have to make. Today, we're going to cover our AI Enablement Training. This is the first of a three-part series that we are going to be hosting and providing to our customers and to folks that have shown interest in AI into our business. And today, really, we're going to be focusing on trying to get a very basic understanding of AI and getting things moving forward. As I said, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Randall Martinez. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at IT Pros Management Group. My passion is helping organizations use technology to work smarter, reduce risk, and create measurable business outcomes. Over the last several years, I've worked closely with business leaders on Microsoft 365 security, automations, and AI adoption initiatives. Today, we'll be focusing on cutting through kind of all the hype around AI and discuss how organizations can use Microsoft Copilot securely, responsibly, and effectively to improve day-to-day operations. An important thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot today in technology and AI is technology should really ultimately be used to help people, to allow them to become more efficient, and in the long term to be able to help people spend more time with things that matter: family, relationships, building a meaningful legacy. What you see on the screen here are things that are very important to me, from as a husband, as a father, as a proud papa of grandchildren. The technology is great, but you want to be able to be focused on the important things, which as you can see here, these are some of the important things in my life. Why should you listen to me? All right. Some of you may know me, some of you may not know me. Well, I've had a long, successful career in technology, spanning every seat in IT, as you can see on the screen here. I started off as a reluctant IT technician working for the federal government, even before IT was IT. We're talking back in the late 80s, early 90s. All right, so I'm an old fossil. I've been around for a long time, and I've done everything. And today I'm the Chief Operating Officer for our organization. I've also authored several books. I'm also a public speaker in the technology field. So those are my bona fides. Take them for what you would like, but this is who I am. I do bring a lot of experience and knowledge, not only in technology, but in helping businesses and nonprofits. So I really want to be able to share some of that knowledge with you guys today. All righty? So let's get some things straight today. This webinar series, who's this really for? Okay. I always want to make sure we set up proper expectations. Okay. This series is really designed for two groups of people, business owners looking to leverage AI to drive measurable business outcomes, increasing operational efficiency, identifying new revenue opportunities, gaining a competitive edge in your market, eliminating repetitive manual tasks, and improving employee productivity. So if these are one or all of your goals, then you are in the right place. This is also for C-level executives or business leaders that are looking to adopt AI into the organization by ensuring employees use AI safely and responsibly, which we're going to cover a little bit later on, protecting sensitive company and customer data. This is the big piece. My big soapbox is covering this because people are using AI in ways that are not secure, and we don't like that. Establishing governance policies and usage standards, reducing compliance and cybersecurity risk, also implementing AI guardrails and security controls, balancing innovation with risk management, and creating a roadmap to secure AI adoption. So if you fall into one of those two camps or all those camps, you're definitely in the right place. But before we dive into today's content, I think it's important, again, to set the proper expectation. This webinar isn't really about technology. It's about business outcomes. Technology simply happens to be the tool that helps us, achieve those outcomes. If someone believes technology is merely a cost center and not a strategic investment, many of the opportunities we'll discuss today may not resonate with you. The same is true for organizations that are committed to maintaining the status quo and aren't actively looking for ways to improve efficiency, customer experience, or business performance. The reality is that AI is quickly becoming a competitive differentiator. The organizations that learn to leverage it effectively and securely will be able to move faster, make better decisions, and create greater value for customers. Today's session is designed for leaders who are curious, forward-thinking, and looking for practical ways to leverage AI while maintaining appropriate governance, security, and control. You don't need to be technical for this webinar. You don't need to be an AI expert, but you need to be open-minded, willing to explore new ways of working and looking at new opportunities for growth. So if you are not, if you're one of these categories, then, this is probably not the right presentation for you, and I'll give you your time back and no harm, no foul. But if you do feel like this is going to be the proper presentation for you, then let's hang on, let's get going here. So this is our agenda for today, and I'll preface this by saying, if you have any questions during our presentation today, go ahead and put it into chat. We will definitely be reviewing it at the end. If I don't happen to have enough time to answer your question, I do have everybody's email registration, so I'll be able to go back and look at the chat, see who it is, and email you back the answer to a specific question if I don't happen to get to it. I'm going to be respectful of your time. I'm going to try to get through the presentation within the allotted time of 1 hour, because I know you guys want to either go back to your lunch or you want to get back to doing your work, doing whatever you have to do. So I'm going to be respectful of that. So what we'll cover today, basically, this is our roadmap for the session. We'll move through it in 5 main areas. First, we can get a clear understanding on the AI landscape, what the buzzwords actually mean, and where Copilot, which is the product we're going to be talking about, fits. Then we'll go deep into Microsoft 365 Copilot itself, what it does, how to choose between OpenAI and Claude models, how to prompt well, and how to verify what it gives you. From there, we'll cover privacy and security, critical for your client work, followed by responsible use beyond just, your organization. We'll close with a practical framework for knowing when to lean on AI and when to step in yourself. But before we dive into the landscape, let's acknowledge where we're all starting from, okay? Let's be honest about where, everybody is today. Some of you have already maybe start using AI. Maybe your advanced build agents use AI daily. Others are just getting started. That range is completely normal in today's world, and it's exactly why we're doing this session. The important thing to recognize is that real risk isn't using AI, it's over trusting it. AI can produce polished and confident sounding output that hides real problems, missing data, details that weren't captured, or an outright fabrication that basically is perfectly reasonable. By the end of today, you'll have a clear rule of thumb for what to hand to AI and what still needs your professional judgment before it goes out the door. With that context set, let's start building your mental model, beginning with the AI landscape and what these terms actually mean. Okay. What is that AI landscape? Let's look at it if you haven't really thought about it. Hopefully the next slide will give you a graphical representation or a mental image that you can use moving forward to understand. All right. Think of AI as a set of nested concepts. At the broadest level, artificial intelligence is just machines doing tasks that normally require human intelligence. That's it. That's when you hear AI, that is the very basic definition of it. Inside that sits machine learning, systems that learn from data rather than following hand-coded rules, okay? Programs are coded, AI is different. It follows a different model. Deep learning is the next level, is a more powerful form of machine learning using layered neural networks. This is the breakthrough that powers modern language and image AI. Generative AI is a subset that creates new context, text, images, code. So if you've played with Google Genesis, that is one platform that can produce images, AI able to produce based on a prompt, based on instructions that you give it. Then finally, there is the large language models, LLMs, are the specific type of generative AI focused on language. This is where both Copilot, Claude, ChatGPT live, and it's what you'll be working with day to day. Now, let's put some simple definition to these terms so they stick. So here are 5 key terms in plain English, no jargon. Machine learning is software that learns from examples. Deep learning adds layered neural networks for more power. Generative AI creates new content rather than just analyzing what exists. So generative AI is what you see a lot of times on Facebook. People create videos. The video that you saw at the beginning of our presentation here is generative AI. Okay, that was an AI created video. Large language models, LLMs, are what power the tools you'll use. Both OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude are LLMs and are both available inside of Copilot. And an agent is AI given a goal and tools to carry out multi-step tasks on its own. We'll come back to that later when we talk about building agents in Copilot Studio. Now, that you know the terms, let's look under the hood and see how LLMs actually work, because this explains both its strength and its biggest limitations. All righty? So an LLM predicts the next word. It doesn't look up answers. So this is the single most important concept to understand. An LLM doesn't look up answers in a database. It predicts the next word, or more precisely, the next token, based on statistical patterns learned from enormous amounts of text. Now let's look at the example on the screen. Given the phrase, the client's invoice is past, the model is going to assign a probability to the word due at 87%, overdue 9%, and so on. It picks the most likely continuation and moves on to the next token. This is why AI can sound fluid and confident while completely being wrong. Okay? Plausible is not the same as accurate. Keep that in mind for everything that follows. So if that's how it works, what is actually good about it? Where does it fall short? Let's look at, the honest scorecard, okay? Here's a realistic view of LLM strengths, weaknesses on the left. What they're great at is drafting, summarizing, rephrasing, brainstorming, explaining concepts, handling repetitive work. These are genuine time savers. But on the right, where they struggle, exact facts, figures from memory, precise math. People think AI is good at math. It's really not. Very recent events, citations, they may invent them and critically knowing what they don't know. Anything where being subtly wrong is going to be costly danger zone, basically. All right. So this is normally called hallucination. You may have heard this term hallucination in the AI world. This is what it can do. It can hallucinate and it can create context or information that is not real, but it sounds real because AI is giving it to you, but it's an actually hallucination. The scorecard should inform, every interaction you have with AI going forward. Use it for the left column, verify or take over for the right column. Now let's connect this to what you actually use. How does Copilot relate to the models like GPT and Claude? All righty. This is a distinction worth being very clear about. Copilot is the product. It's what you interact with inside of Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint. OpenAI's GPT and Anthropic's Claude are the engines, the models running under the hood. Now, you want to think of Copilot as the car and the models as the engine options, okay? You choose which engine fits the task. But either way, you're driving the same car with the same safety features, the same access to your files, and the same data protections that are built into your Microsoft tenant where Microsoft Copilot lives. Your tenant has both models enabled, so you can pick the one that suits each task. And we'll get into that use case shortly. But first, these models get updated over time. So let's talk about what that means for you. So the first thing is, when these models get updated, model providers like OpenAI and Anthropic regularly release new versions. A new generation is typically more capable, faster, and more cost-effective, but it also behaves differently. That different part matters, okay? The part of behaving differently. A prompt or agent you carefully, let's say, fine-tune and created might produce slightly different results after a model update. It's like any software update, better overall, but worth retesting the things you depend on. The practical takeaway is when Microsoft updates the models behind Copilot, revalidate your key prompts and any agents you've built. Don't assume everything works the same. Now, you have a solid mental model of the landscape. Let's get into the specifics of using Copilot across Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 Copilot lives inside the apps you already use every day. Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint. What makes it powerful is that it can draw on your organization's own files, emails, and chats, respecting the existing permissions. So for a lot of people that we support, clients that we handle, we've spent a lot of time building out their Microsoft 365 tenant with baseline security permission structures so that the organization is secure from within of being able to make sure that any information that the Copilot agent has is only available if the actual user running that Copilot can access. That's where these permissions come into play. On the strength side, deep Microsoft 365 integration is grounded in your data. It respects permissions, any sensitivity labels, and enterprise data protection that may be built in. On the watch out side, it's only as good as your data hygiene. It's less flexible for open-ended creative work and capabilities, vary by licenses and tiers. It's best suited for inbox summaries, drafting for documents, meeting recaps, Excel analysis on your files. Now, a key feature of your Copilot setup is that you can choose between two different AI models, and let's look at that right now. Both OpenAI's GPT models and Anthropic's Claude models are enabled in your Copilot tenant. And if they're not, whoever is supporting your tenancy, your Microsoft 365 environment, talk to them about getting both those models turned on. In your Copilot tenant, this means that you have a choice when working in features like Copilot Chat, Researcher Agent, and Copilot Studio. GPT is the default. It's fast, it's strong, all-around performance, great for everyday drafting, quick Q&A across your data. Claude shines on longer documents, careful step-by-step reasoning, and well-structured writing. Importantly, both models run under Copilot's enterprise data protection. You're choosing based on strength, not changing how your data is handled. Okay, so that's really important to know that no matter which model you choose, the security structure that's already built into your Microsoft tenant, because you're using Copilot, is respected. That gives Copilot and Microsoft a very strong edge, especially for organizations that are looking for proper governance and control over the use of AI in their environment. All right. So let's make it a quick example here. Let me go to this one. Back to this next slide. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's a practical rule of thumb. Stay on GPT by default. For everyday drafting of documents, email, quick summaries, fast answers across your Microsoft 365 data, it handles it very well day to day. The flow works very, very well. You want to switch to Claude when the task needs more depth, analyzing a long contract or report, producing a well-structured long-form writing, or working through complex step-by-step reasoning. The model picker is right there in Copilot, so you can experiment. You'll develop your own preferred preferences over time. And either way, your data protection stays the same. So again, reinforcing the fact that by using Copilot, data protection within your organization is built in based on how well your Microsoft 365 overall tenant is structured and set up. If you're one of our clients, you can pretty well be sure that your environment is very secure within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. If you're not, then you need to make that consideration when you're working within these models. Now, regardless of which model you use, the quality of your results depends heavily on how you ask. So let's talk about prompting. I'm going to deviate here 1 second and say prompting is going to be, we're not going to cover a lot of that this session. The next session next month will be very focused on prompting. That's all I'm really going to be covering because I really want to make sure people learn how to communicate with AI. That is what prompting is. Prompting is you being able to properly communicate with the AI and be able to get the results that you want based on your communication. So this is important. So better questions lead to better answers. Just like a human being, if you talk to a human and you ask it silly questions, you're probably going to get silly answers. And that's a human-to-human conversation. If you talk to AI, give it good questions, you're going to get much better answers. Better prompts lead to better answers. It really is that straightforward. There are 4 key elements to give the AI a role. Be very specific about the task. Provide the actual context or data, and specify kind of the format you want back. So let's look at the comparison, at the bottom. Summarize this. Is vague and gives you vague results. The stronger prompt specifies who it's for, what format, what to flag, and what to do with ambiguity. That level of specificity transforms the output. A few bonus tips for you guys. Iterate like a conversation. Ask it to show its reasoning. Tell it to say, I don't know, rather than guess. And give it an example of what good looks like. Once you've gotten comfortable with prompting, you might find yourself repeating the same complex prompt over and over again. And when that time comes, it's a good time to start thinking about creating an agent. And again, reinforcing the fact that I'm not going to cover, I gave you some brief examples of prompting here. Our next session next month is going to be all focused on prompting, and I'm putting together a very good presentation of tools and formats that you can use to create very good prompts, and things that I've been doing for the past 3-4 years with AI is going to help you guys on the next session we have. So when to build an agent and how, okay? This is important. An agent is an AI that's been set up with a specific goal, specific instructions, connected data, some autonomy to handle a repeatable task so you don't have to reprompt from scratch every time. Build one when the task repeats often. The steps are clear. Many people need consistent output and it connects to specific data or tools. Just prompt when it's a one-off requirement, keep changing, or you can't yet describe the steps reliably. Copilot Studio makes this accessible. You give it instructions, you connect your data sets, set up your guardrails, and optionally pick the model. And you start small. You test on real examples and keep human reviewing the output. That's very important when you're creating an agent, because an agent, you're going to lean on it more than you would just kind of having a chat with the AI, let's say, on, it's just a quick question. All right. So you really want to make sure you start small and you start testing it. Whether you're using a one-off prompt or if you're using a full agent, the next question is always the same. How much should you trust the output? So let's talk about verification, all right? This is important. The key principle here is match your verification effort to the stakes, okay? A rough internal brainstorm, it's a light skim, okay? If you guys are brainstorming an idea, well, you don't have to spend hours reviewing it. You can give it a skim, and if everything looks good, then we move forward. A client-facing summary, you better verify all the facts and figures before you walk out and present to a customer or anybody that's important that needs to have information, okay? Financial, legal, or anything going to a client is for perfect examples. Full human review, source by source, okay? A perfect example, this presentation. I did use AI to create this presentation, all right? But I wrote it from things that came from my brain, and I reviewed this presentation at least 10 times before you guys saw it here today, because I'm going to verify everything that we're putting it out. So as you can see, the presentation looks great, but it did take a lot of time for me to verify because I don't want to give information that is not correct to people. The practical checks are straightforward. Verify facts against the original source. Confirm it used the data you intended and didn't just drop anything, and ask it to quote its sources and then verify that quote exists. Rerun or ask different ways. Inconsistency is a red flag. And for numbers, recompute or do a quick spot check. Remember, AI is a fast first drafter, not a system of record. Okay, remember that. If the information isn't in your data, AI can't actually know it, and it may fill the gaps with something plausible. Again, we go back to hallucination. All right, now let's shift to the topic that matters most for your organization's work, how your data is protected. All right, so now we're going into more the data privacy and security component of it, which is something that's not talked about a lot. You hear a lot today about AI using this and using that and all these tools that are coming out. A lot of those tools, are not secure, okay? They do not respect privacy, they do not respect security, and it's a big gaping risk hole for people using AI, starting using tools that don't have privacy and security at the forefront, all right? So here are the 4 key protections. First, your prompts, responses, and the Microsoft 365 data. Copilot reads are not used to train the foundation model, period. Second, everything is encrypted in transit and rest with strict tenant isolation. Third, Copilot sees what the signed-in user can already access, and it respects your sensitivity labels, retention policies through Purview, which is the place where your identity and security is all established in a Microsoft tenant. Fourth, this is all covered by Microsoft Data Processing Agreement, GDPR, EU data boundaries, ISO 27018. So these things are all covered within the existing structure of what you can have access to. So, perfect example, you have a receptionist, she has access to her OneDrive, and she has access to maybe one SharePoint site. Compare that to, let's say, the CFO of the organization. He or she has access to their OneDrive, but they have access to multiple SharePoint sites, operational sites, financial sites. So if the receptionist writes a prompt and the CFO writes a prompt, they're going to get the same prompt. They're going to get different results. Why? Because the data that's accessible for one is not the same data accessible for the other. All right. And that's what you want. You want to basically have the security of the data protected that Copilot has access to, because you would not want your receptionist to be able to have access to all the financial information that a CFO would have. That would be a bad thing. One boundary to know: the optional web search feature sends a stripped, anonymized query to Bing under different terms, where Microsoft is the data controller for most of your sensitive work and your admin. So when you're talking about using the kind of the public free version of ChatGPT, that's what we're talking about here. Now, what happens to your data when you switch between GPT and Claude models inside of Copilot? Let's cover that. Here's the key point: whether a task runs on GPT or Claude inside of Copilot, it stays under the same enterprise data protection. OpenAI and Anthropic operate as Microsoft sub-processors, and they're bound by Microsoft data protection terms, not their own consumer terms. So this is important to know, because you can go in now and go get it. You may have, a lot of you may have the subscription to ChatGPT or subscription to Claude or both. You use those are kind of just wide open, the wild, wild west. All right. When you start using those models inside of Microsoft, that's where your security, that's where your guardrails, that's where the things that are important to business owners. And that's why this presentation was geared toward business owners, C-level executives, and business leaders, because these are things that business owners and C-level executives need to worry about. Okay. They don't need to worry about the latest, fanciest thing. They need to worry about data security, risk management, and that's why Copilot shines in this area. Your data isn't used to train their models. Your permissions still apply and sensitivities are honored regardless of which model you select. But there's the critical rule: keep client work inside a Copilot. Personal free ChatGPT or Claude accounts fall outside of this arrangement entirely. So you never want to place client data in those consumer tools, okay? Critically important. If you have people doing this in your organization, you really need to stop it, because you are doing yourself, your clients, your customers a major disservice by using a consumer grade product to run a business and using information that you have a duty to protect. So with those protections in place, what does good practices look like day to day? Let's walk through your playbook and look at responsible use. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. So 6 best practices to take with you. You want to standardize on Copilot for all client work. No personal free accounts. You don't want to give your folks access to free accounts and basically tell them to do their work and taking customer data. Bad idea. Be careful what you paste. Keep client PII, which is personal identifiable information, credentials, privileged material, out of consumer tools, and unvetted agents. If you learn nothing from this presentation, please take that away. Do not do this, because you are doing a major disservice to everybody. Govern access first. Copilot inherits your permissions, so fix oversharing and apply sensitivity labels before rolling out broadly. Keep a human in the loop. Require review before any AI output reaches a client. So we want to know what's enabled in your tenant, which models, which agents, how each handles data, and finally set a written AI policy that defines approved tools, prohibited data, and review steps so responsible use is a standard. You don't want to make a good guess. Speaking of responsibility, data protection is just one dimension. Let's broaden the lens to the environment, workforce, and ethical considerations, okay? Now we're talking about responsible use. So this is something that a lot of presentations I've seen and attended don't talk about, but it's something that's very important to me, okay? So this is our kind of our 4th section. The numbers are real. Roughly 264 billion gallons of water were used to cool US AI data centers in 2025, during a period when much of the country was in drought. Global data centers electricity projected to roughly double from 2024 to 2030, with AI as a major driver. Cooling these servers takes fresh water, electricity still leans heavily on fossil fuels, coal at 30%, natural gas at about 26%. It's just a big lift for a country to be able to handle this. Any single query is tiny, but at the global scale, totals are significant. This isn't a reason to stop using AI, though. It's a reason to be intentional about it. Batch your work, reuse outputs, avoid rerunning things unnecessarily. The environmental footprint is one dimension. Let's look at the workforce and broader ethical concerns regarding AI. Okay. On the workforce side, adoption is broad, but the impact is still uneven. An NBER survey, about 6,000 executives, found roughly 69% of firms use AI, yet most report little measurable change to jobs or productivity so far. The trend is augmentation over replacement. AI shifts work towards judgment, review, and exception handling, which is exactly where your team adds the most value. On the ethics side, 4 things to keep in mind. Models can reflect biases in their training data. Be careful reproducing third-party content and respect ownership, patents, all these type of things, copyright. A person, not the tool, owns what goes out the door. And be transparent about where AI was used when it matters. Like I mentioned to you guys early on in this conversation, the video you saw, AI generated. AI helped me create this presentation. AI did about 60% of the lift. I did 40. Very straightforward, very open about it, because you always want to make sure that you're giving, maybe not giving AI the credit, but at least be transparent with everybody that knows what's going on. Let's put this together into practical habits for engaging responsibly. Practical habits for responsible AI use. 6 habits. Use AI for the right jobs. Drafting, summarizing, exploring. Not as a source of truth. Again, not as a source of truth. Keep a human accountable for every final output. Be mindful of scale. Batch and reuse rather than rerunning needlessly. Protect data by sticking to enterprise tools. Disclose AI use when it matters, especially for client-facing or decision-grade work. And keep learning. Capabilities and policies change, so you must revisit your norms regularly. Okay? The one thing I want to encapsulate on this particular slide here is I tell people, never, ever, 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 ever abdicate your role as a human to AI. As a business leader, as a business owner, never abdicate your role to AI. Okay? Write that down. Tattoo it on your arm. I'm gonna make t-shirts. Never abdicate your role to AI. Please don't do that. Now let's pull everything kind of together here right now. Here's your practical framework. On the left, where AI accelerates. First drafts, reformatting, brainstorming, explaining unfamiliar material, synthesizing documents and repetitive work. Let AI handle these, confidently. These are things that you can kind of freely do with AI to allow it to grow, your organization, to help your staff improve. On the right is where you step in, verifying facts and figures, conforming data was actually captured, final client facing and decision grade output. Anything financial or legal, judgment and strategy that needs to have decision making on the human side, you want to make sure you're involved in that. All right. I'll give you an example, and this is actually things that have happened, especially at the early onsets of AI, where people started looking at it and started using it. There have been cases where attorneys relied on AI to create a legal brief that gets handed to the court. and they never checked it. They totally relied on AI, and for some reason, these attorneys did not review it. And AI gave them a nice brief, but guess what? All the case law didn't exist. So think about that. You turn in a legal brief to a court for a case that you're working on for a client, and then when the judge or the legal clerk reviews it and they look at the citations, they can't find them. Why? Because AI hallucinated. So imagine, the problem that you would get into as a lawyer. So anything regarding legal, financial, client-facing, you always want to make sure that you are involved in that process. And like I said, even this presentation, again, this is not a legal document, but it's important to me. 60% AI, 40% me, but I reviewed every single slide, every single word, everything. I reviewed it word for word. I had my team review it because, again, you don't want to rely on AI when you're doing something that's going to be presented to people as yourselves. The bottom line is AI handles the first 80% fast. And that's true. That's pretty much of an average. My experience has been 70 to 80% AI does really quickly. Then the rest, 20 to 30% is where you've got to do the work. So as you can see, you're actually reducing the time you have to do something, but you still got to put in the work. All right. This is where that 20, 30% is where accuracy and accountability and trust, very important, where trust actually lives. Okay, so let's close with 6 essentials to take away from today. 6 things to remember. LLMs predict plausible language. They don't know facts. So fluent is not the same as correct. The output that AI gives you looks great. You read it, it sounds great, but is it accurate? Who knows? Okay, so it could be fluent, but it's not necessarily correct. Copilot is your hub across Microsoft 365. You can pick GPT or Claude per task. So you're able to pick whatever engine is appropriate for the type of work that you're doing within the Copilot environment and still maintaining the security of your account that you're using to access. Great prompts give role, task, context, and format. Okay, so this is the foundation of our next session. Okay, prompting. When you're doing a prompt, think about giving the role. What is the role that you're trying to use AI for? What is the task? What is the context? And what is the format? And here, I'll give you a quick example. Okay, the role. You are a marketing assistant for a managed service company based out of Nevada and Southern California. Okay, that's a role that I could give to an AI agent. That's actually one of the roles I gave to one of my agents. All right, the task, please create 5 posts for promoting a webinar. There's the task. The context, the webinar will be held on this day, on this time. The target audience is this. That's the context. And what is the format? You can give it the format and say, I want it to be a short LinkedIn post, a Facebook post. So as you can see, I've done this a lot. That's why I'm able to do this very quickly. Our next presentation will cover this more in depth. But as you can see, by doing it the way I just explained it, as opposed to saying, create me 5 posts for LinkedIn. Okay, you're gonna get garbage back. So you want to make sure that you're properly using the proper prompts. And what I just gave you, that role, task, context, and format, that's called a framework. All right, there's a lot of different frameworks. That's just a really basic one. And tell AI to flag what it's uncertain about. Okay, you always want to make sure that when you're writing these prompts as well, you want to tell the AI, just like you would tell a human being, hey, if you're not sure about something, let me know. All right. It's just like talking to a new employee. If you got a new person coming into your work environment, it's a very technical environment. You always want to make sure, ask me questions. If you have any questions, ask me. If you're not sure, ask me. You also want to talk to AI in the same way. Don't assume because it's the artificial intelligence that it's all knowing and all powerful. It does have issues. Build agents only for repeatable, well-defined tasks and keep them supervised. Okay, so an agent, just like a human, needs supervision. So you need to make sure that that's being done when you start getting to the point of creating agents, which is something we're going to cover in our third session, actually, is going to be looking at creating agents and using some more advanced things within Copilot and within the AI world. Inside Copilot, your data is protected and not used for training, but never put client data in personal free AI tools. And finally, AI is fast first drafters, not your system of record. Verify in proportion to the stakes, okay? If you're going to be doing a major presentation for a company and you use AI, you better make sure you've read every single piece of it and you can actually verbatim check every single piece, because you don't want to give something that's going to be construed as AI generated, because they can immediately see that it wasn't checked, it wasn't verified. So stay involved, never abdicate your role. I'm gonna harp on that all three presentations, all three webinars. Never abdicate your role. Really important to me. So here's a quick AI roadmap for you, from AI interest to AI implementation. Okay. First, we want to cover access. You want to review data permissions, licensing. Next, you want to prioritize. You want to select high value use cases. Where can AI give me the biggest bang for my buck immediately? You want to govern. You want to define approved tools, policies, and guardrails. Pilot. You want to test Copilot. You want to test workflows and make sure things are working correctly. And then you want to start training your users, measure the impact, improve adoption and scalability. So this is how you would want to implement AI in your business, in your organization, from a high level. Obviously, there's several pieces of nuances that we don't have time to get into right now. But the biggest piece of the puzzle here is you want to follow this kind of roadmap when you're starting to look at implementing, AI tools, whether you're using Copilot, which we prefer because you get both models, or if you're using some other tool. But no matter what you're using, you should always follow these processes and these steps to set up the use of AI responsibly within your organization, to make sure you're covering all these bases before you let the genie out of the bottle. Because once you let the genie out of the bottle, a lot of you may have business employees that are currently using tools that are not authorized, not sanctioned. The genie's out of the bottle. And then trying to pulling it back and clawing it back is always tough, because then you get pushed back, because that's how humans are. We push back when we don't like things. But this is a good starting point. Take a screenshot of this if you want, because this is kind of a good roadmap for you to start the implementation in your business. Okay, in today's sessions, you're thinking hopefully about where AI can help your organization. The next step is not to go out and buy tools blindly or let everyone start experimenting without guardrails. The right next step is a focused readiness conversation. In that call, we can help identify your best use cases, look at your Microsoft 365 environment, discuss data governance risk, and map out a practical path to secure AI adoption. The goal is to move from curiosity to safe and measurable implementation plan. You can scan this QR code. This will take you to a Calendly link to schedule a call with me, a 30, 45-minute call where we can discuss, AI usage. What are you thinking about? Looking at things, practically, what can be used, what cannot be used. So it's really a business conversation. It's not a technical. None of these conversations are technical, because the technical is just a tool. It's actually, we're looking at risk management, mitigation. We're looking at a lot of things that will going to help an organization implement AI securely, safely, practically, and effectively, so that they can get the biggest bang for their buck. All right. So go ahead and scan that QR code if you want to schedule that. Today's sessions, we focused on, understanding AI, Copilot, security, governance, and responsible adoption. In August, we're shifting from understanding AI to using AI effectively. One of the biggest reasons organizations struggle with Copilot isn't the technology, it's the quality of the prompts being used. Most users ask AI vague questions and receive vague answers. And that's where people either get frustrated with AI and say it doesn't work, it's crap, it's all this. It's because of what you put in. A lot of us have heard garbage in, garbage out. That it fits perfectly for what AI can do. So during August's webinar, we're going to teach practical prompting frameworks that business owners, executive, and team leaders can immediately apply in their day-to-day work. We'll show you how to structure prompts, provide context, define objectives, and guide Copilot through producing more accurate and useful prompts. You'll leave that session with proven prompting techniques, reusable templates, and real-world examples that you can take back to your organization the very next day. So if you're looking to maximize your Microsoft Copilot investment, this will be a webinar you don't want to miss. And again, I'm working on putting that one together right now. I actually started yesterday. And I've gotten, and again, using my handy dandy Copilot, I've been able to get very advanced in this. So it's Copilot is a real tool. It works, trust me. As you can see, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. All these slides, I didn't sit here and put all these colors and fonts. I use Copilot. It really helped me create this very good presentation, this very nice looking presentation in a way that I was able to communicate and talk to it, just like I was talking to a person. All right. Finally, any questions? I'm going to pull up here the chat really quick. I don't see any particular questions in the chat. I've got one hand raised here. So let's go back.
Oh,
Bianca, go
did
ahead.
have one.
Yeah, Bianca, go ahead and ask your question. Or throw it in the chat. Oh, Q&A, my bad. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Bianca. I saw that message right now. So let's go here really quick. Yeah. What does batching your work mean again? Why is it a more responsible way to use AI? So basically, good question. Thank you, Bianca. That question basically means when you're creating a prompt, you want to go back, you can save your prompts in Copilot. So you don't want to create a prompt today and then tomorrow start all over again. You want to build on the prompt that you started with. So I do this all the time. I will start a prompt on a project and get my output, and then I'll still continue to go back to that same prompt because now all the information that was created initially, that particular prompt or that particular chat retains that information. So it doesn't have to reprocess all that information. It just builds on what has already been done. That's what batching, that's exactly what batching means is you want to create your original prompt and you don't want to start a prompt today saying, hey, create this presentation for me. Okay, it does it. And tomorrow you come back and go, oh, create this presentation for me and do this because you still had that previous chat that you started with. You want to leverage that because it already has all that information in memory. It can refer back to that. And it's actually a better way of communicating because you're building on existing knowledge as opposed to starting over and over again every day. That's where we talk about agents is kind of batching because agents, you give it a set of instructions all at once and don't have to keep doing that over and over again. So I hope that answers your question. I've experienced different outputs and capabilities between Claude and Copilot's Claude version. Is there a way to fix that? No, again, there's multiple variables on that issue. So if you've experienced, it's not exact. You're never going to get the exact prompt because, again, if you're going in Copilot and you're using Copilot and you're putting in a prompt and you're using a Claude engine, well, again, you are connected to my Microsoft ecosystem. So it's always going to refer to that information that's available to you, whether it's email, team messages, data, Word files, Excel, all the stuff that you have access to as an individual, your Copilot has access to it. Giving the example that we talked about earlier, receptionist, CFO. And then if you strip out and just go straight to Claude, well, then all that goes out the window. So you have to understand that there are multitude of variables. If you're using Copilot if you're using Claude within Copilot, you are, again, restricted to what you have permissions to. So that's something to remember. All right, perfect. I don't see any other questions here. I certainly appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you for joining us. We've got about 5 minutes left, so if we don't have any other questions, then we can definitely end today. Register for the next session. This recording will be available, so we do have your email address. We'll be sending you out a link with the recording so you can share it with other people that maybe not able to attend and at least get them going around that AI path and journey. It is a journey. Please remember that. And if you take it that way, you are not going to be overwhelmed and you're going to get to where you want to go. Hopefully quickly with some guidance, hopefully from us. But we want to get you at least start thinking about it and how can this solution, how can this technology, this disruptive technology change the way you run and operate your business. All right. With that said, thank you, everybody. We'll be reaching out to you via email with the recording. And thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you guys in August. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.